Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What's going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 168 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Presented as always by BUSR.com. We are live every Wednesday and Friday on Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube, and now Twitch as well. Syndicated in all major podcast networks, and of course, we're streaming in the Going For Two app for iOS and Android. I'm here as always with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, what's up, man?
Oh, not much, man. A little bit, still a little shell-shocked from Monday night, but solid fantasy week other than that, so can't be too upset.
Good stuff, good stuff. And as I mentioned at the top, we got a great guest tonight. He's coming at us from, he's a writer for Fantasy in Frames. He's also a co-host of Perfectly Framed and Fourth in Frames podcast, Mr. Nate Markham. You can find him on Twitter at Nate Markham. What's up, Nate?
Not too much, guys. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. So,
Ryan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there, John. I'm not going to talk about the game Monday night. I don't know if you caught in, and I was worried I might get booted. Being a Chiefs fan, I hope that we can say we'll see each other again in the playoffs, right?
That's what I'm hoping for, man.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you're a Chiefs fan, but I don't hate the Chiefs, man. I respect too much what they're doing. They're so good.
Yeah.
And they're so creative. Their coaching's so good, and it's not talked about enough because of Mahomes. But that's a whole different show.
Yes, definitely.
I can't talk shit about him. I'd like to, but I can't.
He wants to. He's being nice to the guests tonight. If you weren't here, Nate, he'd talk shit about him. Don't worry. All right, Nate, just give us a rundown of what you do over there at Fantasy and Frames, and kind of plug your shows that you co-host as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, you can find me, like I said, at fantasyandframes.com. I do weekly content. I do a lot of IDP content for them as well. We kind of started the IDP train rolling a little bit last year and continued it on. Like you said, I am co-host of the Fourth in Frames podcast with Jorge Edwards. We do the Perfectly Framed during baseball season, and that was an odd year, to say the least. And then Jorge Edwards and I just got signed on with the Fantasy Data Podcast Network, and we do a show there called the Fantasy Playbook. And that's a weekly rundown of every game, both offense and IDP side of the ball as well. So you can find them at any of the podcasts pretty much about everywhere, Apple Pod. You can find our shows. We do a live stream Wednesday night called Behind the Frames. That is a start and sit. And then Sunday morning from 10 to 11 Central Time, we have another last-minute question, last kind of start-sit live stream as well. So tune in. We'd obviously love to have either one of you guys on at any point going forward. But, yeah, it's been great.
Good stuff. So, yeah, you got a lot of shows going. We got a bunch of shows, too, that we do. And quickly plug them, the War Room live shows that we do. We have one tomorrow night, Thursday night edition with Jay and Dan. Get you ready for the week. Get your last-minute sit-start questions in. And hopefully by then we'll have some information on this Pittsburgh-Tennessee game as well, if they're going to play it this week or not. So, all right, well, we got a full slate. Of course, no teams are on byes yet, so we still have a bunch of games to get to. Let's go ahead and get to the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, news and notes, as always, is brought to you by Society Socks. Bold socks with a social cause. For every pair of socks you buy, a pair is given to charity. Visit mysocietysocks.com/armchair and use our promo code armchair to get 50% off your first month subscription. All right, speaking of that game, Titans, Steelers, and then you also have the Vikings, Texans, too, which I'm assuming is going to be not rescheduled. I haven't heard anything about that game, but the Titans, Steelers seems to be the...
Good.
They said that one was good. Yeah, I think the Titans, Steelers seems to be the big one. Ryan, I'm going to go to you first on this subject because you actually live in Pittsburgh. What are you hearing there? Are they going to play it, Monday or Tuesday, or are they looking at a totally different week?
Yeah, they're thinking Monday. Tomlin said that he expects to prepare for a Monday night game. He said, because it'd be an unfair thing for their scheduling, being an extra short week with it. So he wasn't happy about that. And in his press conference today, he talked about Monday night probably. Still playing everything close. my players for there. I'm gonna have the flex kids do a last minute change. Like, I'm preparing for the worst on it, but I think we'll be okay on Monday. Like, one guy's practice squad. Like, it's not the full. It's not as hard of a hit as we think it is. If they're testing all week, I think we'll be okay.
Should be all right. So let me ask you, worst case scenario, Nate. You have Derrick Henry or Juju Smith-Schuster, and going into Sunday, we don't have any news yet. Are you just going to play it safe and take them out of your lineup, or are you just going to try to roll with them and just pray?
Man, I would say I would pray, because chances are, unless I have just a really strong, viable number 3 running back, for instance, if I took a Jonathan Taylor in the third, if I went running back, I'm not in that dilemma. But most of us aren't that lucky, fortunate. So I would just pray and hope. I mean, usually, Twitter and every other social media and NFL is pretty good about getting information out quicker than later. And they want to make, the first COVID instance, they want to look like they're on top of it. They don't want to let it snake bite them and then cause this and steamroll. So I think they'll be on it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the NFL, even though they won't ever come out and say it, as they're really affected by Vegas. That's why we got injury reports and everything else. So Vegas is going to want to know what's going on. So the NFL will get that stuff done, I believe, well before Sunday. So I think we should be all right there. All right, let's look at some of these injuries that we had this week. This one, it's not necessarily a big one as far as having him in your lineup, but it might affect some other guys on that team. Tariq Cohen, Ryan, now he's basically, given the mantle over to I can't even talk tonight, to Montgomery. Does that really affect Montgomery's value, you think, or do you think there's something else that happens here?
I think it locks David Montgomery on the field, which I wasn't too worried about, but he's had consistently 13, 16, 14 carries this year. It may gain a little bit of work in the passing, probably not. But I think that team's trending up with the new quarterback situation almost more than Tariq Cohen. Jumping the gun there with that. But, yeah, I think Montgomery's sitting nice. He's one of the few running back options who is not in a muddy backfield at all.
Yeah.
So I'm starting with the RB2 with confidence.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they just signed they re-signed their rookie, is it Artavis Pierce or something? But I don't think he's going to be anything special. He's just there for depth. It's going to be all David Montgomery, I believe. And
I think the passing may go more to Anthony Davis because he runs all that underneath stuff. Then you'll see Montgomery's way, so it might be a boost for him, especially full scan.
Anthony Miller, you mean, right?
Yeah, who did I just say?
Anthony Davis for the Lakers. I don't know.
That's the brow.
I have that on in the background. Yeah, I meant Anthony Miller. Thank you.
Of course. All right.
Yeah, he's been getting more work, and that frees up those short targets.
Cordell Patterson's not a thing, correct? We hope not, don't we? I mean, why in the world would they ever try to do that?
Yeah, I've heard that, and I hope they don't, because I mean it wasn't a thing even before when he got all those carries. I hope not. Yeah. All right, let's go look over at the Philadelphia Eagles, who seem to be snake bitten once again this year. They just lose Dallas Goedert for a while. What are we doing with this? I know it helps Zach Ertz, obviously, but those receivers, man, what does it do anything for those guys? Any of those guys that we want to play?
I mean, who is left? Greg Ward? Is that really? I mean, I guess now's an early, maybe speculative buy for Alshon if he's out there, if you really want to risk it. But let me ask you two guys a question. Can you drop Carson Wentz right now? One quarterback league.
Yeah, I think you can, as long as you got a decent. I do think he can bounce back. I do, but I think in a one quarterback league, if it's a 12-team league, there's probably a better option out there. Or maybe you bench him and you start someone like Fitzpatrick, who happens to be playing the Seahawks, who's given up more yards than anybody ever. So something like that I would do. But Carson Wentz has been playing terrible. I got him in one of my leagues and he's killing me. He's absolutely killing me. But unfortunately, it's a 16-team league and I don't have a good backup. My backup was Drew Lock, so he's injured, so I'm screwed. It's Carson Wentz or nothing for me. What about you, Ryan? What are your thoughts?
He's my Scott Fishbowl quarterback.
Oof.
Him and Drew Lock are splitting my 2-3. So it's a little rough, so I feel it. Yeah. But, I don't know, man. I'm real nervous about him in general now. But I don't know if I can cut Wentz. Like, I'll stream him.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I'll put him on my bench and I'd turn a bottom tier player. Because if they do get healthy come playoff time, they're going to be trying to score a lot of points.
Yep.
So
I will say one thing about that. Carson Wentz, I know he didn't play good in week 1, but he still has to play the Dallas Cowboys twice. Their defense looks pretty bad. They got to play the Giants twice. They look pretty bad on defense as well. They have the Redskins one more time. So I think that you look at those games, and you could probably start him in those games for sure. So I do think maybe he's just a streaming option. Keep him on your bench.
He's a talented quarterback. He's just had the worst luck for people around him staying healthy. He's lost linemen, receivers, tight ends now. It's just a string of bad luck. And if it all comes together later in the season, you're going to be upset that you got rid of him for the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's been his whole career. He's never – you name 1 year where he's had elite wide receiver help, and he's thrown to garbage. He's thrown to more players from the practice squad than legitimate starters. So
when you're praying for Alshon Jeffrey to be there, be there as your number one, it's sad.
Yep.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next injury here. Chris Godwin out once again, Ryan. What are your thoughts on this offense without Chris Godwin?
I think it's a steady dose of Mike Evans, and I guess Scotty Miller's a thing now.
Again?
I've really been fighting it. I'm gonna go another week before I give in and admit that, but it has to this has to be OJ Howard's chance, right? He looked good week 1. He's more talented than anything else on that team. Other person sneakily I'd keep an eye on is Tyler Johnson. A lot of people liked him through the draft process. He's a similar body style to Godwin, not as fast obviously, but he can play that role, and there's a chance to try to integrate him in and play him.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned Scott Miller there, and I think he had a good in week 1, and he had a bad game in week 2, and then he was a thing again in week 3. But week 1 and week 3 are when Godwin played, so you would expect week 2 to be his big week, but it worked out the opposite way there. So I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, he's not facing the good coverage.
Yeah, exactly. He's up against that third cornerback. I think that's the issue there is Godwin and Evans pull so much away from him that he ends up being the one that's opened, and Brady's the kind of guy that throws to the one that's open, and it just happens to be Scott Miller. So I'd be a bit nervous starting him for sure. Mm-hmm. Let's go to the Colts here. Michael Pittman's injury. They're already without Paris Campbell. Now they'll be without Pittman for a while there. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton's still a thing, even though he hasn't been playing well. Who's the next man up for the Colts there, Nate?
I guess it's Zach Pascal. I mean, he seems to be the obvious answer, mostly because the other 2 receivers that they have there, I don't know their names. Maurice Fountain and Ashton Doolin. I think that probably means, realistically, if Doyle's back and healthy, I know he's back last week. I've been a fan of Mo Alley Cox since week 1, and he finally, the last couple weeks, has delivered. And big body. I know that Phillip Rivers can take advantage of multiple tight end sets if he wants, but I think that, again, in this game against Chicago, I think it's Jonathan Taylor pretty much all day, right?
Yeah. That's the only thing I'm feeling good about starting that offense.
Yeah, I would.
Good about it.
I would consider Nyheim Hines as well, just being that pass catching option out of the backfield. I think he can play a similar role to what Paris Campbell did, catching those little short passes. So I don't think I would be starting him if I had some good options. But if you're in a pinch, I think Nyheim Hines would be viable as well. All right, Ryan, let's go to the Raiders here. Las Vegas Raiders. Brian Edwards has been ruled out. Ruggs has also been ruled out. Obviously, Hunter Renfrow was the beneficiary of that. Can you start him this week with some confidence?
I mean, with the injuries happening in the league right now, if he's on your team, you're almost guaranteed to have to start him in the flex. So, I mean, I think he's a nice floor play. He'll get you 8 to 9 or 7 to 9 PPR points because he'll get volume, and he has a little bit of upside. I'm not ecstatic starting him, but I'd feel comfortable starting him, I guess. Yeah,
I think if you have him as a receiver 3 in PPR leagues, he's viable, I believe. I think he's not going to kill you at least. He'll get something. He won't get you a 0 at least. The last 2 notes here we won't talk about because we're going to kind of run along here in the news and notes. I just kind of mentioned them. I already talked about the Bears re-signing Artavis Pierce. I don't think it means much, at least not this week. He might get a little bit of work, but not enough to really be worth anything. And then Hakeem Butler signed with the Eagles and got moved over to tight end, which is just interesting, because Goddard is going to be out. We all loved Hakeem Butler coming into the league for the Cardinals last year. We thought he'd be the next big thing. Of course, he didn't even play for the Cardinals. So he's got a little chance here. Maybe he gets a little bit of work at tight end. Maybe he's athletic enough to be a good player, but just hasn't panned out for him yet. So he's someone to kind of keep an eye on. All right, let's do our game previews.
This week's game-by-game previews.
All right, guys, the way we do this, I assigned each one of y'all a game before the show. There'll be a few games that we do featured games where we'll all talk about. Usually I feature the Thursday night game because it's the first game we talk about, but this game was just so ugly that I couldn't even find enough to talk about in this game. So, Ryan, I assigned this one to you, but Broncos at Jets. And the question I have for you is, who the hell is Brett Rippon, and how does this affect all the Broncos players?
All right. So I did about 60 or so scouting reports this offseason. He's one I didn't do. So I had to reach out to a couple of my buddies at TDR about it. Especially Matt Hicks was telling me he's very excited about him. He played very well at Boise State. I mean, he completed 67% of passes last year. He's a 4-year starter. He had 30 touchdowns in an offense that has a lot of similar concepts that you'll see in Denver. So for a rookie, he's mature. He legit started every game all 4 years. So he has experience. It's a big difference from the Mountain West Conference to the NFL. He's gonna have to throw. Like, fantasy wise, there's gonna be projection. I know the Jets suck, but Denver's not great. Their defense is beat up. So it might be a higher scoring game, and he may have more pass attempts, because why not try him out?
Yeah. I was just gonna say,
I'm not excited about it, and I'm not feeling great about his weapons, even though it may be good for Noah Fant because you're going to see a rookie go into his big body target. But I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes on these Thursday night games, you got these bad matchups that somehow turn into high-scoring affairs because the teams are just so bad that they can't stop each other. So there's a good possibility that this kind of turns into one of those games. And I think you're right. I mean, Noah Fant's probably the one that's probably affected the most, because I don't know if you're starting Jerry Jeudy anyway, unless you're really in a pinch. But I don't think it's going to hurt Fant, just from the reason you said, that the quarterback's going to target the big body tight end. It's the easiest pass to make over the middle. He's not going to run a lot of those deep out routes or anything. So I do think that Fant value stays about the same. I think we're going to see a lot of Melvin Gordon as well out of the backfield. So yeah, I'm not changing things too much there. All right, let's pick this game. This is a tough game to pick. Nate, I'll go to you. Broncos at Jets. Who you got?
I'm gonna take the Broncos just because, like I said, I think Melvin Gordon will do enough to basically cover for them, even if it's not against the spread.
All right, Ryan, who you got? Broncos at Jets.
Broncos. I mean, both teams are beat up and bad, but Jets are just out of gaze effect.
All right, I'm going to be the different one here. I'm going to go Jets. I think this is if Jets are they're not going to go 0-16, I don't think. If they're going to win a game, this is going to be the one. They're going to have a rookie quarterback on a short week, with Sutton already ruled out. They're at home. They have no home field advantage really because they're the Jets, but they are at home at least. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a mini upset and take the Jets here. All right, let's move to the next game. The Steelers at the Titans. We're going to assume this game is going to be played. And Nate, this is your game, and I got one thing to ask you.
It's time for this or that.
All right, this or that. If we're assuming that Deontay Johnson is going to be out of this game, do you want Chase Claypool in your lineups, or would you rather have James Washington?
I want Chase Claypool. I just remember back about 4 weeks ago during all the, I might call it preseason, whatever we want to call that time before there was actually football. And the buzz around camp was that he's making all these plays and in limited exposure. And Ryan, I'm intrigued I know that you're over in that area. I'd like to pick your brain about that too. But I look at the last couple weeks and I see, especially last week, and Chase Claypool led all receivers in snap share. So he was on the field the most, which is somewhat telling that maybe they want to get, and he's huge, obviously big body receiver. Ben could use something like that. I'm wanting to see how the red zone targets pan out. It's too early to see a ton of exposure quite yet. He hasn't gotten much, but everything's pointing in the right direction for Claypool. I don't know if in a one game situation, if that's the correct answer necessarily, but especially for rest of season, I'm leaning Chase Claypool.
Yeah, I'm with you definitely rest of the season there too. And in the one game thing, let's hope you're not starting either one of these guys. But if you're in a super deep league, I do think the upside of Chase Claypool is there. He was compared at least, athletically to Megatron, Calvin Johnson in the offseason. So he has that going for him. I don't think he's anywhere near that talent, but he does have some of the measurables of Megatron. So I do think that Chase Claypool for the upside. If you're having to play Chase Claypool, you're probably in bad shape anyway. So you want to go for that upside. You want to go for that ceiling. Give me Claypool. All right, let's pick this game. Steelers at Titans. Ryan, who you got?
I think I'll take the Steelers. I don't like it. I think Titans are a better team, but this week is chaos. They're not practicing. It just doesn't make. Everything's pointing to making life easier for the Steelers on this one.
All right,
I'm gonna take Pittsburgh.
All right, Nate, who you got?
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna take Pittsburgh. On weeks like this, I pretty much almost always choose defense over the offense in a situation like this, and Pittsburgh's defense is, obviously legit. We knew that anyway.
Yep, good stuff. Yeah, sweep it. I'm going Steelers as well. Move on to the next game. We got the Chargers at the Bucks, and this is one of our featured games. And we have our prop bet of the week as part of this game as well.
BUSR.com. Prop bet of the week.
All right, the prop bet of the week is brought to you, of course, by BUSR Sportsbook. Bet on everything from horse racing to the 2020 election. Visit BUSR.com/going-for-2 to sign up, get a welcome bonus, and bet on this weekend's NFL games. You can also bet on the Preakness this weekend as well, which starts on Saturday. Ryan, so the prop bet this week is Tom Brady over under 2.5 touchdown passes this weekend.
I'm going to go the under on this. Godwin being out hurts. I don't think he is a legit number 2 target behind Mike Evans. But more importantly, the Bucs don't have a great offensive line, and the Chargers can rush with their front four, especially with Bosa and Ingram coming in there. They're just chaotic for a QB who's not mobile at all. I like it as a defensive matchup for them, so I don't feel confident with Brady getting 3 touchdowns this week.
All right, yeah, I agree there. I think he's only done it one time this year. It was last week, and I don't think he's going to get there again this week. I think maybe he has 2 touchdown passes, and that's it for me. All right, Nate, going to the other side of things here, the Chargers side of things.
Cut them or keep them.
So cut them or keep them. Mike Williams in a redraft league. What are you doing with Mike Williams? He hasn't played very well this year.
I thought, I was like, wow, you've done your research, because I had been past tense a Mike Williams truther for a while, and I got to tell you, when they switched from Tyrod to Justin Herbert, the target share went with the air in Tyrod's lung, and it was gone.
Yep.
And so, unfortunately, I like Herbert as going forward. I don't know what Lance Lynn. I don't know what they're going to do with Tyrod. All the talk is, if he comes back, he's get the starter's job again. Anthony Lynn, that's just coach speak. I don't believe that for the life of me. But if you look at Mike Williams, since Herbert's been in, he's had 5 targets compared to the 9 that he had in week 1. So as much as I hate it, just because, quietly, 1,000-yard receiver. Is there anybody even more quiet than that?
Yeah.
I have to probably cut him, but it's tough because of the injuries that have been going on. He's better depth than anybody on the waiver pool. But, yeah, cut him. I got to take a pick.
All right. Mike Williams, cut him if you got him. All right, let's pick this game. Chargers at Bucks. Ryan, who you got?
I'm going to take the Bucs. I know I kind of talked to the Chargers defense against them, but the Bucs have actually a decent defense this year. I think they can slow down against a rookie quarterback with all their speed. And they still, just because he doesn't throw for 3 touchdowns doesn't mean they're not going to win.
All right. Chargers at Bucks. Who you got, Nate?
I got the Bucs as well.
All right.
Same reasons.
Sweep it. We're going with the Bucks all around. Next game is your game, Ryan. Seahawks at the Dolphins. And the question I have for you, Chris Carson has been ruled out. What are you doing with these Seattle running backs?
Gagging, and I hope I don't play. Hoping I'm not playing one. Like Carlos Hyde's still not bad. Like he's a startable running back in the case like it's his job, which it is now. So he's somebody you could start in the flex for very similar how we started talking about Hunter. I talked about Hunter Renfrow, where I'm fine with his floor. I know he'll give me decent production, and he has touchdown upside, so I like that with him. Travis Homer's a fun one to keep an eye on. I'd prefer to see him in there because he's an electric younger back. He's a little bit of a banger between the tackles and has some breakaway speed. I'd like to see him get some carries. I'd pick him up and not feel comfortable starting him, but he's someone I want on my fantasy team now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the upside, if we're going to pick one of these guys to sort of break out, I do think it's Homer over Hyde, because Hyde's been around for so long. But if you need just a floor, if you need just points, something in that spot where it's just going to be points, it's Carlos Hyde for me as well. Anybody picking the Dolphins in this game? We can just skip over that pick, right? No one's picking the Dolphins.
Nope.
All right. Vikings at Texans. It's a featured game. And Nate, I'm going to you first.
Breakout or fake out?
I purposely gave this question to you because Ryan's been gushing about this guy all off season, so I knew he'd gush about him once again. But Mr. Justin Jefferson, breakout or fake out rest of the season?
I've had him as a breakout since before. I hated the situation as a whole. I thought Minnesota wasn't exactly the ideal landing spot considering their passing inefficiencies or lack thereof. But here's my reason for the breakout: is I personally think, despite what Gary Kubiak's offenses have always been, I think Minnesota realizes they might have to throw the ball if they want to win a game. Their defense is just so bad that they can't do this. Dalvin Cook, even though Dalvin Cook's great, not taking anything away from him. I think this is a situation, and you look at this weird snapshot that's been going on there with the receivers, and it was, Olabisi Johnson was starting to get some traction early on, and then he faded away. Now it's a Chad Beebe is taking over for Olabisi Johnson, and Justin Jefferson's getting about 77% of the snap shares. So what's nice is that he's able to be moved around that offense. I loved him coming out of the slot. I think we all did. We saw what he did at LSU, damn near 90% catch rate. He was elite, and he was ready to roll, and I think that they're going to get him the ball in space more often, and it's a mini breakout because I still think the ceiling is a little capped with that offense. But I actually dropped him in a league that I was desperate for running back, and so I'm eating crow on that one. But at the same time, I have enough shares of him elsewhere that it didn't hurt too bad.
Yeah, good stuff. I hope you're right because I actually own him in my main dynasty league, and I'm hitting some injuries right now that I may have to start him eventually. So I hope you're right with that breakout there. All right, Ryan, going to you on the Texans side of things. Is this the quote-unquote get-right game for Deshaun Watson? I know he hasn't been terrible fantasy-wise, but he hasn't been good in the NFL so far. Is this the game that we see him get healthy and not get healthy, but you know what I mean, sort of put up the big numbers that we expect him to do?
Yes, I mean, look what he's had to play so far. Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Like, you have three teams who've been playing great on both sides of the ball. Like, it's not been good for him. He's faced crazy pass rush, especially up the middle. Like, it's just been a terror, and he's still thrown for over 250 yards every game. He's added with his legs. The touchdown numbers weren't there, but guess what? Vikings now, it's leading into him not playing that kind of matchups every week. And Deshaun Watson's still great. He was still getting used to a brand new offense, new OC, lost his best weapon. It is an adjustment, and he's did it against some of the toughest teams in the league. He can only go up from here. Right. I'm trying to trade for him now.
Yeah, buy low right now. Buy low for sure. I think this is the get right game for him for sure. And this is a tough game to pick here because we had two teams here that were playoff teams. Everyone kind of expected them to be playoff teams. They're both sitting at 0-3 right now. So the one that goes 0-4, we can probably pretty much eliminate from the playoffs. So who are we going with here, Nate? Vikings at Texans. Who you got?
I'm going to take the home team. I'm going to take Houston. I think it's going to be a fun game. Might be one of the most fun games to watch on the weekend. High scoring.
Agreed. Ryan, who you got?
Yep, I'm going Texans. I trust Deshaun Watson back there. I don't think they're as bad as the first three games of the season let on. I'm taking them. And I think the Vikings are beat up, and they don't have an identity.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with the two of you and say Texans as well. So sweep it. Last game before the break, Nate. This one's yours. Saints at Lions, and I have one question for you.
Stash or trash?
Stash or trash all of the Lions running backs. Is there anyone worth a stash on your bench in redraft right now?
I mean, the only one worth stashing would be DeAndre Swift, and a caveat to that would be that I think if Matt Patricia is on this hot seat and he actually gets fired before the season's over, I think there's enough draft capital in Swift that maybe the new coach, whoever that may be, would actually implement him and utilize him like he should be. I mean, why spend draft capital? Why spend a second-round pick on both him and Carrion and then bring in AP? And I get it. You know, I love Adrian Peterson. I don't think anybody's ever going to not want to see him run the ball, except for people that have invested second-round picks in both of those two. And, Swift looked capable of the backfield as far as the receiving game especially. And then he gets 9 snaps last game.
Yeah,
I mean,
brutal.
I don't understand it. That's just confusing to me.
Yeah, brutal. I don't get it at all. I think he's the best back by far in that backfield, and I think that he needs to be getting the ball a little bit more. All right, let's pick this game, Ryan. Saints at Lions.
Saints. I think they're just a better all-around team, even without Michael Thomas.
Saints for you as well, Nate?
Yes, sir.
All right, sweep it. All right, guys, quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll break down the rest of the games. Hold tight. All right, we're not going to commercial break because for some reason my commercial is not working right now. So we're just going to keep on rolling here. All right, let's go to the next game, Ryan. Browns at Cowboys.
Cut them or keep them.
I gave this one to you on purpose because I know you like this guy, and I want you to know. I want to know what you think about him in redraft leagues, Mr. Jarvis Landry. Cut him or keep him.
I mean, you're keeping him. Jarvis Landry is just doing B-level Jarvis Landry things. He's essentially turned into Jameson Crowder right now, which people have still been starting in the flex. Like, he's still gotten in his worst game 7 or 8 PPR points. It's fine. You didn't draft Jarvis Landry to be your number 1 or 2 receiver, hopefully. He's your flex play. He's a nice floor guy to get with some more upside. So, you can't cut him.
All right, so we're keeping Jarvis Landry. All right, Browns at Cowboys, Nate. Who you got in this one?
I got the Cowboys.
All right, Ryan.
I don't have any reason
Nope.
why, just other than I don't think the Browns defense can stop him. Does Kareem Hunt have a groin injury? Is that last I heard?
Yeah, he's day to day apparently.
Can't keep up with the injuries now.
I know it's too many.
Out.
Ryan, who you got for this game?
I think the Cowboys finally win one.
Yeah, I'm
I
with
think-
you. I think
Yeah.
the Cowboys get this one. We're going to sweep it. I think the Cowboys' offense is just too good. The Browns, they look good running the ball, but the Cowboys are going to put up points, and they're not going to be able to keep it up. So, Cowboys for me. All right, Jags at Bengals. This is a featured game. And, Nate, I'm going to go to you first.
It's time for this or that.
All right, this or that. If you got these two guys, which one are you starting? Joe Burrow or Gardner Minshew in this game?
I'm starting Joe Burrow. I think I'm starting to get to the point where I'm starting Joe Burrow potentially in every game. I mean, his attempts per game are already at an elite level, 47 per game. He's making the throws he needs to make. He's going deep with the ball. His red zone, completion percentages isn't as bad as I would expect for a rookie. I think at some point Mixon has to get right. And I know that's polarizing. A lot of people want to hate on Mixon or love him, one of the two. And I think as soon as he does, he brings another element to even enhance Burrow just a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm with you as well. I think it's Burrow for me just because of the sheer volume that he's going to get there. I think Burrow is shown us that he's going to be a legit quarterback in this league, and I do think that Burrow against this Jags defense is going to play well. So, yeah, give me Joe Burrow. Sticking with the this or that theme, Ryan, I'm going to you for rest of season. A.J. Green or T. Higgins?
I cussed you out when I saw this question. Like, I love AJ Green. I want to believe he's right. But I just don't think he is. And him not 100%, he could just be a high-priced decoy right now. And T. Higgins has a lot of upside. And one of the things we talked about in the preseason was the only way he'd really get the shot is if him and Burrow had really good chemistry. And they showed that this week, especially in the red zone. Tyler Boyd's going to be the top target guy there, but They don't really have a tight end who's worthwhile. They have him in the red zone with his size, catch radius, leaping ability. He's a great red zone threat, so he has that upside. And then some more. He still had 5 targets last week and got 2 touchdowns off it.
Yep.
It may not be consistent, but I love the upside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you as well. I mean, A.J. Green in the beginning of the season was getting tons of targets and just wasn't doing nothing with them. T. Higgins got 5 targets and did something with them, so T. Higgins for me as well. All right, let's pick this game. Jags at Bengals. Who you got, Nate?
I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to take Cincy.
All right, Ryan?
Take it, Cincy. We went lost, tie for Burrow. He's there now. He's getting that first W.
He's making that next step. He's getting the win here. All right, I agree. I think I'm going Bengals as well. Next game is the Ravens at the Washington football team, and I gave this one to Nate because we know Ryan's a Ravens fan, and anything that he says will be all about Ravens. This one's sort of a tongue-in-cheek question here. Which of the backup QBs sees snaps in this game, Kyle Allen or Robert Griffin? Of course, if Kyle Allen gets in there, it's because they bench Haskins. If Robert Griffin gets in there, it's because they're blowing him out, and Griffin's going there to do mop-up duty. Which one do you see first in this game, Nate?
And it originally was going to be RG3 for that exact reason, but I got belief in me that Lamar Jackson is not stepping foot off that field after Monday night. This is his get right game where I think he does everything. Not that he was terrible. Well, in running the ball, he wasn't terrible. Passing was a little obviously not Lamar-esque, or it was 2018 Lamar Jackson-esque, I guess. But I think he just absolutely destroys them this weekend. Chase Young's probably out, so the pressure won't be on him as much. Matt Ioannidis is out, so that front line for Washington, which is normally their strength, is going to be one of their weaknesses, I think, and Lamar's about to just eat. And I got a question for you guys. Is there a chance that it would be Alex Smith over Kyle Allen?
So I live just south of Washington, and that's always been a big talk. And I don't think Alex Smith is quite ready to take a game snaps yet. I do think Kyle Allen, because he got a history with Rivera, that I do think it would be Kyle Allen and not Alex Smith. I don't even think Alex Smith's been active. I could be wrong on that one, but I don't think he's been active the last couple of games there. So I think it's Kyle Allen for sure. What about you, Ryan? What do you think?
Yeah, I can't see Lamar coming out unless he has 5 touchdowns by the fourth quarter. Like it's not pretty there right now.
Yeah, so we're going to go with Kyle Allen as being the starter there, or not the starter, but getting snaps at some point in this game because they bench Haskins. I could definitely see that. I think that's already been talked about a little bit in the media this week. So they're not liking Haskins right now. They're calling him Trashkins. So it's not good.
That's great.
All right, anybody taking the Washington football team in this game? We can just skip that, right? Ravens are all around there. All right, Colts at Bears. This is a featured game, and Ryan, I'm going to go to you first. What does Nick Foles do for all these skill players? Is there any bump in value at all, or it's just the same old, same old?
Yeah, it's a bump. I mean, Mitch Trubisky's been so bad, and he has no get his playmakers the ball. And I feel like because of Trubisky, people forget the talent they have on that offense. Like, Allen Robinson's a superstar caliber wide receiver. Anthony Miller is also a top tier slot receiver who had high draft capital and produced like crazy in college. Like, he has weapons there. I think he does well. I could see them putting up some nice fantasy points from all 3 of them. And like super flex, I'm comfortable starting Foles.
All right, I like it. Nate, going to the Colts side of things here, I'm going to change what I put down there because we talked about the receivers in the injury report already. So I'm going to go a different route here. In most leagues right now, the Colts are the number 1 fantasy defense. Is that a legit thing, Cord, or you think it's just a product of last week's game against the Jets?
No, I think it is. I think if you look from the secondary all the way up, obviously it starts in the middle. Darius Leonard is not just from an IDP standpoint, but from a real football standpoint is elite as they come. And the pressure they're getting on the quarterback right now helps set up that linebackers, which they can kind of sit back. They don't have to do the all-out blitzes as heavy as some of the other elite defenses that we're used to seeing, the Pittsburghs and the Baltimores of the world. And it's not that those 2 teams have to blitz. That's their identity, and Indianapolis
Baltimore has to blitz.
Baltimore has to blitz. Yeah, I didn't think they would have to. when they brought in Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe, I thought that would allow Matthew Judon from not having to be the best blitzing linebacker, which I think that is probably a problem for Baltimore's defense. But at the same time, there's still I've liked Indianapolis. I had Indy as my AFC championship, AFC champion sleeper team if they were a sleeper going in, and I still stand by that. I like their defense.
All right, I'm with you, man, because I actually put down a little bit of money on that. I got the Colts as my sleeper to win the Super Bowl. Actually, I put down like $15, and if I win, it's like $4,000. So it wasn't worth.
Damn.
It was definitely worth to put it on there. And I actually had the Colts defense preseason in the top 5. So I'm loving the fact that they're the number 1 defense right now because I'm looking like a genius because no one else had them that high really. All right, let's pick this game, Ryan. Colts at Bears. Who you got?
Got the Colts. It's a really good defense. They have a good identity on that team. They're gonna ride Jonathan Taylor. It's a good matchup for them.
Nice. All right, Nate. Who you got?
I'm in agreement. I think this is the Colts as well. Like I said earlier, this is Mo Alley Cox's next 5-catch, 75-yard and touchdown game.
All right, good stuff. I'm going Colts as well, so we can sweep it. Next game, Ryan, is yours. Cardinals at Panthers. And my question to you is, are you worried about Kenyon Drake?
Not a ton. Like, I never viewed Kenyon Drake as an RB1 type, but he's going to end up getting games where the game script goes where he's getting the ball. They haven't really had to play in the lead yet, and I think they're just kind of seeing what Kyler has this year. I could see them calming down, especially later in the season and start running the ball more and maybe getting him involved with the passing game. I'm not hitting the panic button yet. A few weeks from that, he's still starting running back in the NFL, which apparently gives you fantasy value nowadays. But yeah, I'm not super worried yet. If he was your RB1, yeah, but if you have other options on the team, you still might not be in bad shape.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think he's getting a ton of the shares of snaps right now. There's just nobody else in that backfield that's going to be getting any snaps. He's getting the workload, just not getting the production. And we know in fantasy football, eventually that kind of evens out. You're getting on the field enough, you're going to eventually do something with it. So he's a talented enough player to actually do some breakouts. I think the fact that Kyler Murray's been running so much and getting touchdowns kind of takes away from what he's supposed to be doing. So, this week I think Drake's a good play actually against the Panthers defense.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
should be playing with a lead.
Yeah, I would definitely think so. All right, let's pick this game. Cardinals at Panthers. Nate, who you got?
Cardinals.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Cardinals.
Yeah,
All right.
same.
Sweep it. All right, we're going to the Giants at the Rams, and this game is for you, Nate. And the question I have for you is this Henderson's job even when Cam Akers comes back, or is it back to a timeshare?
I'm going to say it's going to be a bit of a timeshare, but I don't think it's going to be as 50-50 or 30-30-30 with Malcolm Brown, whatever they think it's going to be. I think right now the identity is the hot hand. Darrell Henderson has it. He's looked. I mean, even Malcolm Brown week 1 was outtouched Cam Akers, and then Darrell Henderson took the reins and he's done extremely well. And don't get me wrong, if Henderson does take over, that's a league-winning type of position for a team as explosive as the Rams. What I'm waiting to see is them, and we're starting to see it now. They're starting to switch. They were the most run-heavy team in the league up until really this past week, and now I think we're starting to see Goff take off. That was not intended, but embarrassing now. I think that we'll start to see that, and what that will do is that'll probably feed into Henderson's. I do think he's a better pass catcher than the others, and so to answer the question instead of going a roundabout, I do think it's Henderson's job, not 100%.
All right. I think I'm with you as well. Unfortunately, I drafted Cam Akers in my Dynasty League, and I didn't want to hear that, but I do think Henderson has kind of won this job, at least the right to have it for a little while. If he ends up slipping up, maybe Cam Akers gets back in the mix, but for now it's going to be Henderson for me, and I'm with you too with Goff in that passing game. they were, I had Goff as a DFS player this past week, and through the first half of that game, I was like, crap, I missed out on Goff. But then all of a sudden, he started throwing the ball all over the field, and I was like, yeah, that's the Goff I expected to see all year. So I think they finally realized what they got there, and they're going to start doing that a little bit more often. So I'm with you on that one. All right, Giants at Rams. Anyone going with the Giants here? Nope, I didn't think so. Nope. All right. Patriots at Chiefs, Ryan, and I just wrote down one name. I want you to just talk about one guy here, Mr. Cam Newton. He's been sort of an enigma here. I think in this week 1 and week 3, he had less than 200 yards, and then in week 2, he had almost his total for the entire season on those 2 games. So, what do we see from Cam Newton this week?
I think we see a lot of Cam Newton. They show, unfortunately watching the game on Monday, the Chiefs showed that you can run on them with the quarterback a little bit, and he has that ability, and Belichick knows he's known how to use Cam to find a way to get wins out of him. I think it's a good week. I think he's going to be consistently having good weeks because of his rushing upside, but it should be a game where they have to score more points than normal. So, yeah, I like Cam.
I think I'm with you. They're going to have to pass a bunch here, too. I think Cam Newton, week 2 had a 397 passing yards or something crazy like that. And I think N'Keal Harry had 12 targets, and Damiere Byrd had 9 targets. I think it's going to be a similar sort of game plan. Well, no. Actually, I take that back. The game plan will be to run Cam and run this ball and keep the offense off the field, but that's not what's going to happen. The Chiefs are going to score points. They're going to have to try to keep up, so the Cam Newton's going to have to throw the ball. So I do think that Cam Newton will toss it a little bit more than he's expected to do. All right.
You don't need him to throw 40 times to have good fantasy production.
Agreed. Patriots at Chiefs. Nate, who you got?
The homer in me is also I'm taking the Chiefs. I can't. After watching Mahomes on Monday night, that was a different level, and I think that he has capabilities to do the same thing again.
All right, Ryan.
Chiefs aren't losing.
Chiefs aren't losing.
They're too good. No, I'm picking them to win the rest of the games. They're too good, man.
I agree. I think it's the Chiefs once again. I don't want to even speak it out loud, but the only thing stopping the Chiefs right now would be injuries. So, Chiefs for me as well. All right, next game is Bills at Raiders, and this is one of our featured games. So, Nate, I'm going to go to you first.
It's time for This or That.
This or that. You got to start one of these 2 guys, Hunter Renfrow or Cole Beasley, who are both benefiting from some injuries on their team.
Yeah, in this particular game, I'm just going to go exclusively with the team that's going to have it to pass more, and not have to, but probably choose to pass more. And Buffalo actually is, believe it or not, a pass-heavy team this year.
Yep.
Compared to what I expected them to be exclusive on the ground, and I mean they're a 63 to 37 pass to run ratio versus that 55-45 that Las Vegas is doing right now. So I'm going to take Beasley in this situation. I think both, as Ryan said earlier, I think Renfrow is startable as a wide receiver, as your 3 in a PPR. And I think Beasley's the same way with a little bit more upside.
All right, I think I'm with you as well. I think that Josh Allen, as we talked about on the show, is an MVP candidate right now, the way he's playing, and I do think Cole Beasley benefits if John Brown is out. And Ryan, speaking of John Brown, if he is out, is Gabriel Davis, the rookie there, worth a stash? I mean, I think he had 4 for 4 and 81 yards last week. I think he had a few end zone targets as well. Of course, he had the big pass interference that wasn't really a pass interference, ended up winning the game for them basically at the end. Are you stashing Gabe Davis, Ryan?
Yeah. I mean, I'm stashing him, especially in Dynasty. But if John Brown's out, he's the perfect person to fill in his role. They do a lot of the same things. He's the guy they drafted to eventually become his replacement. He has game-breaking speed. He's a guy who can take top off defense, score anytime he touches it. And Josh Allen loves to sling the deep ball. He gets 3 to 4 targets a game. He can get 80, 100 yards just because of his speed and the way they're throwing. So, yeah, he's worth a stash, and if he's out, that's more opportunity.
I agree. I think he's definitely worth the stash. He's a big athletic receiver that can definitely break out. And if John Brown, we know him to have the injuries in the past. I think last year he was healthy all 16, which is very rare for him. So it's a good possibility that he could be out for a few more games this season as well. So yeah,
Dynasty's a huge hold.
Yep, definitely.
Like,
I got him on my
going out of
taxi
way to
squad.
get Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, I got him on my taxi squad. I'm so happy I do because he looks like he's the real deal right now. All right, Eagles at 49ers. Going right back to you, Ryan. We kind of talked this a little bit already, but I want to get your thoughts on it as well. You know, with this Eagles JV team, anybody outside of Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz you wanted to start?
I'm going to pick the Bills first.
Oh, yeah, Bills. Yeah, Bill. Are you taking the Bills or Raiders,
Yeah.
Nate?
I'm taking the Bills as
Bills. All right.
well.
But anyhow, other than Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz, no, there's no one I'm starting confidently on there. I'm really happy if I have one of those two because they're force volume. I guess Greg Ward has some value. He's shown when he was the only real wide receiver target, he's produced some fantasy value, but I don't want to start him. It's not. You're in a bad shape if you're starting him, but yeah, outside of Sanders and Ertz, it's a bad situation.
Yep, I agree there. I think the only one you would even consider would be Carson Wentz, and I don't even think he's startable right now if you got better options. Going to the Niners side of things there, I'll take that one since it is my team. And I just want to talk a little bit about Nick Mullins. And I will say that I watched every snap of that game. Now, granted, I didn't watch it live because I had to work, but I watched it on Game Pass. And Nick Mullins, I know it was the Giants, and I'm not going to overreact, but Nick Mullins looked damn good. And if Jimmy G doesn't get back in time, I think Nick Mullins can take this job from him. He might get Alex Smith because Nick Mullins made some throws in that game that Jimmy G wouldn't even attempt to make. And I think Nick Mullins, if you're in a Superflex league right now, it's definitely worth an ad, just in case he has another good outing like that. I mean, he's got the Eagles this week who, have struggled a little bit. And then we got the Dolphins the next week. So there's a good chance that he has two more good games. And if they win both those games with this JV league that we got, our JV team we got out there right now with all these backups, it might be his job for the rest of the season. So Nick Mullins is definitely worth an ad, I think, in some deeper leagues if you got Superflex leagues.
I added him in my 1QB 16 team.
Yeah.
QB's hard to find that.
Yep.
I added him, and I'm excited about the upside because Jimmy G's not good.
Yeah.
Is he good enough to have two, I'd say, top 36 wide receivers when Debo comes back between Ayuk and Debo? Is there enough passing volume? Or do you – with the running backs being – and Kittle, of course. But, is everybody beat up so bad from the running game, of course? Are they forced to pass a little bit more?
I do think they are forced to pass a little bit more, and I also think that Shanahan's offense, the way he runs his offense, those receivers have fantasy value because you saw last week Ayuk got some runs out of the backfield. I think they do something with Debo Samuel. They do those little quick hitters. So I do think that there's going to be some fantasy value there just in that respect. So Kittle, of course, is the best option there. And I think him and Mullins had a good connection a few years ago, too, when Mullins was the starter. And Kittle, his value doesn't go anywhere. So I do think Debo and Ayuk has some value going forward as well. All right, last game of the weekend, Monday night. Well, of course, unless the Steelers-Titans gets postponed, then maybe we have a Tuesday night game. Who knows? Falcons at Packers. And, Nate, this one is your game. And my question to you is, Allen Lazard an auto start with Devontae Adams out right now?
For me, yeah. And you compound that with the fact that they're playing against the Falcons, which is, they're the worst against the quarterback. They're allowing 38 points per game to the quarterback. They're third worst to the wide receiver. That's 31 points. And if you guys can legitimately name any receiver, MVS is not even in getting looks from Aaron Rodgers right now.
Nope.
And obviously, I think we've been saying it from week one. Aaron Jones is probably the legit wide receiver, too, on that team. If Devontae Adams is in, Lazard is making a case. 27% target share last week. Everything's pointing in the right direction. Most importantly, like I said, everybody's almost an auto start. If you're the wide receiver one against the Falcons, you should pretty much be slotted in some capacity.
Yeah, the thing that's great about the Falcons, they're kind of like the Bucks they were last year, where it's like their offense is so good that they'll have to they'll score points, but their defense is so bad that they give up a lot of points. So it's always like start the players against the Falcons or the Bucks in last year's case. I do think that's a good call there. And yeah, Lazard was a guy that I was looking at all offseason. I tried to add him everywhere I could. I do think that his breakout is real and legit. I think when Adams comes back, it might be a little bit more shaky, but right now I think Lazard is the number one there. All right, let's get to the listener questions here, and we got one from Devin Howell at Devin Howell 94. And Ryan, I'm going to ask this one to you. He's got two offers right now. Both of these offers are for AJ Green. He's being offered Henderson or Michael Gallup. If you're trading AJ Green, first of all, are you trading for either one of those guys? And if you are, which one do you prefer?
I take either over AJ Green at this point in time. But I mean, it's only a lot of my team composition. It's a cop-out answer. I like Gallup a little bit more because of the fact he's in. I know what his role in the offense is. They're throwing the ball in absolute time. He has huge game potential, like we saw this week. It could be a little inconsistent, but so can Henderson because of all of their backs they have as well. Because Akers is hurt. They still show that Brown's going to get some action. Like, I'm not fully confident with their share, and their rushing share doesn't have the value that Dallas's passing does, where they're thrown all over the field. So I'm going to go Gallup.
All right. I think I agree there as well. All right, Nate, this one's for you, and we just talked about Lazard here, but this is a tough question, actually. Should I play Lazard or James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars in a flex position? This one's from Heather at Maygirl557 on Twitter. What you got, Nate, for this one?
Man, I love James Robinson in this matchup. I mean, when the opposing team's given up about 150 yards on the ground per game, it's hard not to start the legit one. Like I said, that being said, in this particular week, it's a little bit of a challenge. I think that if I had to choose for this week only, is Devontae Adams out? That would be question number one.
Yes, definitely.
If I can answer definitively, yes, I'm going to start Lazard over James Robinson, and that hurts me because I'd have a hard time believing that there's not another way to get both of those two into your lineup in some capacity. But that's not the question. That wasn't phrased to us. So I'm going with Lazard in this particular matchup.
All right, I'm with you. And actually, it's funny you mentioned about getting both of them in your lineup because I actually know Heather pretty well. She's been following me since 2015. I practically help her draft her team every year. We've now won. I say we because I help her. We've won 2 championships in a row. She's going for her 3rd championship this year. And I said, you can't start both? And then she showed me a screenshot of her team, and I was like, oh, yeah, you can't because you got a damn good team. So she had to make the decision there, and I was with you as well. I think it's Lazard there. I do think that he's the one to start. Robinson's, a great player too. But, yeah, Lazard's for me as well. All right, Ryan, going back to you. This one is from Jesse Garcia. He got a couple of questions here, actually. So Goodwin is out. He's hoping that Shark is good to go. He's currently starting Lazard. So his wide receiver 3 is either T. Higgins or Brandon Cooks. Which one you got from those two guys?
I think I'm going to go Brandon Cooks. That matchup is really good, and we're talking about that Deshaun Watson breakout here. I'm sticking with that. Cooks has big play upside. He's still good, especially in a matchup like that. And he flashed a few big plays last week against Pittsburgh's defense. And I like the fact that Watson's starting to get his rapport with him built up. So I'm going to go Cooks. But in all reality, kind of addition onto it, I don't know if I'm fully confident starting Shark yet. We don't know if he's fully healthy, how he'll be involved this week coming back. He's going to be a decoy. I may consider Higgins over Shark.
Wow.
Just because if I'm trying to play it safe on this, it's a scary option. I don't like guys who I don't know if they're fully healthy.
Good point. I think if you told someone before week 1 that they'll be starting Lazard, Higgins, and Cooks in week 4, they might be like, "Screw this team," because that's
and Darrell Henderson and James Robinson are the 2 starting backs.
Exactly.
Shit.
Yep, definitely. The other half of his question there, I think, is a pretty straightforward one. I think we'll all agree. He has Carson. If Carson can't go, is it Henderson or Hyde? I think we all would agree it's Henderson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, agreed. All right, last question we have here is actually from Ryan. It's your cousin, right, Ryan, that asked this question?
Yeah, it's my cousin Landon.
Cousin Landon, he wants to know, Nate, what level of running back should you trade Michael Thomas for if you don't have an RB2 healthy right now? He's basically hurting at running back. Wants to move Michael Thomas. What should he be looking for?
I mean, you can't sell for peanuts. You've already absorbed all the depreciation of Michael Thomas. If you take on the pain and suffering and then give him to a person. I say give, but trade to a person. They usually are going to reap the benefits, but that's what people are going to try to do. I mean, if you can't get a legit RB1, I can't see a situation. Again, this kind of goes into roster construction and knowing what the rest of the wide receivers look like to know if you have a legit one to take the case, to fill in. And then with Julio, then, I would say that right now, a person I would probably look at is Josh Jacobs, coming off of a week where he wasn't as productive, a little banged up on the hip, that hip flexor, which I think is going to be okay, or quad, whatever it is that he had going on. That's the style of running back that I'd look for. One that I feel comfortable can deliver as an RB1, but might have coming off of a little bit of a down week.
I might take that trade if I like my team. One of the running backs he mentioned when he was asking me was Joe Mixon.
I was just going to ask that same question.
And I hesitated because I have a love for Joe Mixon.
Me too.
But I'm just not. I can't get off it. But I don't know. I know it's his backfield, and they're bound to come around. But if you're desperate, there could be worse options.
You think he could probably, if it was the Mixon owner, he could probably get a little throw-in piece as well?
That's what I try to do. It'd be him plus something else.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
It may not be something great, but another asset.
Yep, I think I agree there. I think Mixon plus, because it's funny you mentioned that, Ryan. That's the guy I was going to bring up and ask you, because I have Mixon in a few leagues, and everyone's trying to buy low on him right now because he's been playing so bad, and he'd be somebody that would possibly be able to break out second half of the year. So maybe Mixon would be what I'd be looking at. All right, it's time for our favorite segment of the night.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Nate, you got to come correct here. We got some good ones this year so far. Who is your forgotten fantasy player?
Mine is the year 2004 to 2006. It was I had the running back who he took the job from because they got rid of him and they sent him to New England. And that player that they got rid of, or that they took in, was Rudy Johnson.
Nice.
Rudy Johnson, over those 3 years, came in. And if you remember, Corey Dillon was coming off of monster seasons with the Bengals, and then he goes to the Patriots. Corey Dillon filled in 2003. Came in and had five starts, mind you. Now, he played in multiple games, but 5 starts, and he had 215 attempts for 957 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Nice.
Wet the whistle a little bit for Cincinnati. The next 3 years, all he did was put up 4,221 yards, 36 rushing touchdowns at a 4.1 yards per carry clip. Basically he's that guy that he had 1,454, 1,458, and 12 touchdowns in consecutive years. You could pretty much pencil him in. And I went back and looked at a draft that I had in 2004, and that draft started off with LT as my first pick, and pick number 60 was Rudy Johnson.
Nice.
Sprinkled in, so the draft went LT, Priest Holmes, Dante Culpepper, Sean Alexander, Peyton Manning, Michael Vick, and then I had Clinton Portis, LT, Rudy Johnson, Randy Moss.
Wow.
It was a great year for getting. How in the world got Rudy Johnson that late? Then again, it was 2004, and none of us really we didn't have you guys. We couldn't listen to your show and know not to take stupid shit. And that tells me, I look back and I look at the first year was 1998, and the first draft I did on Yahoo, my first pick was Marshall Faulk. My second pick was the Miami Dolphins defense. So clearly I did not do well, and I don't know why in the world I would have done that. But, yeah, so Rudy Johnson.
Nice.
Gone but not forgotten.
Let me ask you, did you win the chip that year? Is that a championship?
No, I did not. I got second.
Oh.
I don't know what – I tried to put I saw the pieces, but you can't look at the actual final week to see what the scoring happened.
Gotcha.
If that was a down week, I could have done the research and had come prepared for you guys, but
it's all good.
I let you down.
It's all good. You didn't win, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, exactly. Second place is first loser.
Yep, exactly. All right, guys. Awesome show as always. Let's go around the room really quick. Give us your Twitter handle. Plug your show. Plug whatever you wanted to plug. Nate, we'll go to you first.
You can find me at Nate Markham on Twitter. Like I said, I write at fantasyandframes.com. You can find all of our IDP content, regular weekly content. You can search for our live streams behind the frames. That's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter Live. And then on the fantasydata.com podcast network, we do the Fantasy Playbook podcast. Jorge Edwards and myself do. So please subscribe, like, listen, comment, cuss. Tell me what I'm doing right and wrong. Would love some feedback.
Awesome. Good stuff. Ryan, we'll go to you.
Find me on Twitter at Ryan Searfoss at Foss5534. Find me here every Wednesday night. Also podcasting at the Dynasty Draft Rooms, Dynasty Show on Tuesday nights, and occasionally writing in between.
All right, good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert77. And Nate, I gotta say I'm jealous of your Twitter handle because you don't have to put a number or anything in there. You're just Nate Markham. It's very simple. I had to put a 77 on the back of mine. But yeah, so at Jeff Lambert77. Of course, you can find the show on all your major podcast networks, guys. Just search for Going for Two, search for Armchair Fantasy Show. You'll find us. With that, for Ryan, for Nate, I'm Jeff. We'll see you next week.